this computer.
Oh,
there she is. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah,
okay.
I forgot that's internal. Connecting live video. This is that bonus content, that non-spawn
Hey,
con.
there we go. We
live and
are
kicking?
live.
Right on. Right on. Well, welcome back, everybody. We miss you. Hope you missed us. Got a lot of things to cover. I was really disappointed to miss last week because it was so fresh in mind to really cover, especially the first couple of days of the 1-6 commission. And really, you know, it was nothing really new, to be honest, but it was just still all too real and all too heartbreaking and disgusting. And there are so many things to describe. And you know, and to a certain extent, it's kind of interesting that we did have the week off because more things have come to light, and because they testified, they've gotten death threats. The black police officer who said he had never in his life, while wearing the uniform, been called the N-word, and he got called it hundreds of times that day. He's now getting death threats and racial threats. Michael Fanone, the police officer who testified, you know, and was really first and foremost, you know, talking about having his taser taken away from him, tasing his testicles, tasing the base of his skull. He had a heart attack. He had a brain trauma because of the incident. And he released an audio footage of while he was testifying, someone called his home and left a message, called him homophobic slurs, told him he was a disgrace to the uniform, and said he was going to kill him. This is where we are. And we've kind of known it now for the last few years, but did you get to really see any of it, Evan? And, you know, what are your thoughts as this continues to unfold?
Yeah, dude, we just lost 2 more officers this past week, you know, to suicide. And there, you know, there's something to it. I mean, there's definitely something to it. You cannot deny the fact that, you know, these officers were subjected to something that I think we can only imagine. You know, it's one of those deals where you think like, oh, well, you know, they're police officers, they have weapons and all this other stuff. But just the crushing weight of all of those people trying to, you know, break into our nation's Capitol building, you know, one of the buildings is amazing. It's horrifying, to be quite honest with you. And you're right. It's watching these guys testify. And what was interesting is that, you know, most of these guys, they're not little guys. They're you know, very, you know, solid, you know, built dudes. And so to see how adamant they are about how desperate that day was shocking, because it's all we got so far was just like the people who were in command saying, hey, we're hearing these messages and we're seeing pictures, but actually seeing on their faces the desperation of that day. It did something to me, man. It really did. It's crazy.
I totally agree. And, you know, I had this thought earlier, and you know, anybody who's out there, I haven't had a chance to check things yet. I don't have 6 screens in front of me like I normally do, but anybody who's confused, because we've been vocal critics of police officers here. I think we've always said not all, and that the real problem is that we don't know, you know, what percentage are the good guys, what are the bad guys. And I don't know anything about these guys other than what they did on this day. But on that day, these guys were heroes. They were defending the Republic from an insurrection, from domestic terrorists. And one of the officers kept using that word that day too. And then he used he pulled out the dictionary and defined it. And it absolutely plays. And again, look, there is a certain percentage of people who showed up that day specifically with the intent to break into the Capitol and commit violence.
And it was not Antifa. It was not Antifa.
Well, we know for a fact that a variety of white supremacist nationalists groups organized, coordinated, brought weapons, were intending to do grievous bodily harm to various members of our government and to keep the election from being certified. There's a certain percentage of people who showed up and were angry and got caught up in the moment. And those are the people who need to take a step back and go, gosh, how does a peaceful protest walking down the street in Portland suddenly turn into violence? Well, you just saw, and you became part of it. And I am sympathetic to anybody who is honest enough to say, that's not what I went there for, but I did get caught up in it. And now I understand, and I'm regretful. I can meet that person a little bit halfway. And then there are the people who showed up thinking it's a party. It's Donald Trump. I want to go to the Capitol. And they didn't do anything. They milled about. Their crime is not attempting to stop others from doing things. And I'm not going to get hung up on that right now.
Yeah, man. You know what? Once again, you're saying everything that I'm thinking. I mean, but these guys, these people that went, I feel in my gut, and I don't know if I can verbalize it or not. Yes, what happened in Portland and stuff like what happened in Portland was almost like dumb. I don't know if that's the word that comes to mind. It's like it was kind of dumb. I mean, I get it. I totally get it. But the reasons in which it was done, I don't know. It feels different. Portland feels different than Washington. Once again, I cannot articulate it, Aaron. I don't know why. It's just something that came up when you said that, and I was like, you know what? It's a safe place to bring this up. There's something different. I can't put my finger on it, but
there
there's
is
something different.
And it is not. I don't find it difficult to explain the distinction. Both deserve to be condemned. Both are born from what the people involved would say is righteous anger. If you truly believed that the election was stolen and the person you voted for was being unfairly kept out of office, that's a pretty good reason to march on the Capitol and protest. They were misinformed, but we need to look at these people as human beings, and they got caught up in a particular moment. I'm not excusing it.
Right.
In the same way that I'm not excusing rioters getting caught up in what they did. And Portland and Seattle are pretty unique, I think, compared to some of the other places, Atlanta, Baltimore, things of that nature. Portland and Seattle have completely different, unique to the Northwest issues they're facing. And I think it is a stain on the mayor of Portland that he can't get these things under control, that he can't figure out how to meet with all these varying groups. I think one difference is that a lot of people in Portland got arrested. A lot of, people who were caught rioting in these cities after what were, I will repeat, largely 98% of the time peaceful protests. There were only a handful of incidents, but if it bleeds, it leads. And that's what people see on TV. And that's something that Fox News is going to highlight. OAN's going to highlight. Hannity and Tucker are going to have a field day with that kind of shit. They're going to upplay that, and they're going to downplay the exact same thing that a whole bunch of pasty white folks did on 1/6. The main difference is one is a civil response to a discrimination issue. The other is an intentional violent response based on lies on the Capitol.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't tell the difference in the level of wrongness of burning down a 7-Eleven and marching on the Capitol, beating police officers with thin blue line flags. Oh, the irony. With American flags, calling yourselves a patriot. Oh, the irony. While carrying Confederate flags. A Confederate flag got into the Capitol building. That didn't even happen during the Civil War. And that people showed up with the intent to kill Nancy Pelosi, to kill Mike Pence.
Right.
And Mike Pence is still defending these people. So there's a lot of crazy to unpack here. And what gets me are people who are still saying, oh, that it didn't happen. We literally watched police body cam footage and heard the voices of the officers themselves and people around him. Get his gun, tase him, go for his balls, tase his head.
Yep.
I've got children. Fuck your children. I mean, they attempted to. First off, anybody who attempted, who assaulted a Capitol police officer, isn't that a federal offense? You didn't just attack a normal cop. Because here's the irony, Republicans, DC is not a state, so you've automatically attacked a member of the federal government.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between punching your local sheriff's deputy and assaulting an FBI agent.
But Aaron, here's the thing, man. I mean, once again, the reason why everything you're saying, I agree with, man. I agree. But where's the repercussions? Where's the justice? Where's the, you know what I mean? And same thing with Trump. I mean, there have been so many things that are now out about Trump that, you know, taxes, about, you know, we knew about his slandering, we knew about his assault, you know, supposed assault on women, and we knew all of these things. But here's what kills me about all this. What kills me about all this is that we have Andrew Cuomo, you know, the guy, whatever retribution he needs to face, he needs to face. But boy, it just seems like the wheels of justice move so fast against every single person except for Donald Trump. And I don't understand how this man is getting by with this stuff. I don't understand why he's not in orange yet, other than the fact that, you know, we don't want to set a precedent of arresting and incarcerating a former president. To me, that's the only thread that I can see as a semi-intelligent human being, is that the only reason this man is not being actively in the news like Andrew Cuomo is right now, the same way we did with Al Franken. As soon as that picture came out, boom, he was out. And you can get into so many other discussions about that, about the difference between Republican justice and Democratic justice, how we eat our own, but yet Republicans are like, it's okay. We'll wait till all of it gets there. Matt Gaetz is still sitting out there, man. Marjorie Taylor Greene for also helping to assist the big lies still out there. You got Trump, you've got Trump Jr., you've got Giuliani. I mean, even Giuliani, why isn't this guy sitting in jail right now? Right now. That's my thing, man. I'm still waiting on that. I don't know. What do you think? I'm pulling a Stephen A. Smith here, man. Pulling Stephen A.
I think that Trump got away with greasing the wheels of a largely corrupt New York system for a very long time. So that's what kept him somewhat clean beforehand. He should have been, the FBI, I think it's the FBI vets all presidential candidates. I'm kind of surprised he made it through that. Because Kush, he didn't make it through. He wasn't even supposed to have a security clearance, but of course they made that through. I think maybe Democrats believe in the rule of law. And have a more pronounced morality that they're willing to follow. I think that's the big thing, is how often, Republicans want to crack a stick on people and say, that's wrong, you're not doing, when it's not one of their own, but they quickly forgive their own because they see the value of just having the winning team. And I don't think that's how Democrats want to play the game. And
Right,
I think,
and I'm please don't take this as me saying that
yeah,
we need to stoop to their level. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it seems like one side is playing ball kind of the right way. There are plenty of things that Democrats do that both you and I know that we look at each other and go, what in the ever loving hell are you doing? But for the most part, the accountability piece is somewhat there on the left. Somewhat. Please, that's that phrase. But as soon as you start spanning right on things, once again, we have allegations, but we have allegations of not only Republican House members giving information to insurrectionists, but we have a Republican House member who is accused of having sexual intercourse with minors. We have a Republican House member who we know has QAnon theories going out in and out of her mouth all the time, is perpetuating the big lie. You have Kevin McCarthy, who is freaking going down and collaborating and visiting with Donald Trump. And yet nobody is not, we're not just calling these people out. We're not even pursuing, like, it just seems like it just is it's like farting in the wind, man. I mean, it does nothing. It just absolutely does nothing. And it's so frustrating and maddening to me. Why in the world aren't these people brought to justice? Don't get me started on the melanin content in their skin.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole nother layer of stuff, Aaron. You and I know. We've talked about that before, man. Is that it just seems like some people get a free pass and some people don't. Mm-hmm. And that's got to stop. That's just got to stop, man.
And until somebody has the guts to say, you know what, I know it's been precedent to not go after it, but I'm sorry, we're now heading down a very, very bad path, and attempt to hold that accountable. You know, it needs to come somewhat independently. You know, I don't think Joe Biden needs to be. I rewatched one of our shows from 1/6 just by coincidence yesterday, and I made the point that I don't think Joe Biden should be going after Donald Trump. I think he should go to the Department of Justice and say, if you find evidence of wrongdoing amongst people and it was against this government, you know, it was self-harm, you know, inviting the Russians to harm us during the election, you know, the Ukraine stuff, that sort of thing. Hey, I will back you and pursue them to the fullest extent of the law. If it's minor level shit, that's not what we're going after, you know? But then there's the middle ground, you know, I either Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert gave guided tours the day before the insurrection to QAnon followers, to the kind of people who, you know, and we've heard the audio. We know that they had blueprints of the building. We know they knew where they were going, what they were looking for. They got to within 100 feet of the nuclear football. Can you imagine the bloodbath that would have ensued? Because you get near the nuclear football, I'm pretty sure those guys are opening fire.
Yeah. And you know, it's you cannot describe it in more detail than those guys did. You cannot describe it in more detail than what they did. And I'm sorry, if you listen to that testimony, bringing it full circle, you listen to that testimony and you still don't realize how serious that day was, you're gonna have to do something about your comprehension of things, because that day was not just a low day in the history of the United States, but man, it was potentially, you know, Chernobyl without the radioactivity. I mean, it was that serious. It was that serious, man.
It's going to be taught in future history books, and it has yet to be decided how that's going to be framed. Is it going to be framed as, you know, D-Day, a moment when the tide turned in what is, I believe we're currently in a civil war. It's just playing out differently than the last one. I think there are people right now quite willing to take up arms, for and against. Well, strangely, both sides will say they're doing it for this kind of, for the benefit of the republic, as they did last time. And I see a lot of similarities. I mean, I at a time when a whole lot of people were saying, you know, is slavery the right thing to have in this country? You know, we were founded upon it. We wouldn't be here where we are. So people were voting, you know, for and against it. The Nebraska-Kansas Act happens, where we expand slavery. So we're seeing that in some ways now. I think it's very similar, you know, when you've got a president who says, you know what, let's deport a ton of people. Let's have detainees at the border. Let's make them suffer. Let's do harm to all sorts of people in this country. And it's not necessarily a direct line, because it was a much more singular issue during the first Civil War. This one's, you know, got a lot more conspiracy to it. There's a lot of threads, but I still think it goes back to, you know, a very specific morality. Do you think all people should be equal and treated as such?
Right.
And once again, there's one group of people who say no to that question.
Yep.
And you know, kind of segue a little bit. First off, Tucker Carlson is going to Hungary to meet with Viktor Orban, and then he's attending a far right-wing rally in the country. And
dude's an autocrat, man.
But you know, in terms of, you know, who gets to say who's a patriot and who's not, I think these Olympic Games have been very eye-opening, and you see commentary from people, and they're very upset, and you know, are you know, have been openly rooting against the women's national soccer team, rooting against Simone Biles, criticizing her, criticizing so many players, criticizing the woman, you know, who gave the X gesture the other day, which was such a simple gesture of intersectional politics. And she explained it very well. And to have such really hatred in your heart toward fellow Americans because they see the world slightly different than you do. And they see it differently because they've had an entirely different experience of what this country means and how it treats mostly people of color. And you've got Joe Billy Bob saying, oh, they hate America and all this. Like, no, much like Baldwin said, you know, I love this country more than any other country in the world, and because of that, I reserve the right to criticize her pretty much perpetually. If I love something, I want it to be better when it's making mistakes. There's so much this country could do, and people who are exhibiting abilities that most of these other people criticizing them will never in their lives understand, will never have put in the time and energy and sacrifice to get to this level, and have no fucking clue what it means to be spinning 100 miles in the air upside down and just be like, get over it. But that's their stance on everything. Just get over it. I never had to endure it, so you should just fucking get over it.
Yeah,
I think it's very similar.
Yeah, they just, that, you know, they have a very Lee Greenwood way of looking at America. I mean, it's, you know, there's stuff in that song, man, and it's like, you know, it kills me. It kills me to think that the different interpretations of what America means hold no validity to the majority population, to the majority of the majority population. Because I'm not convinced yet, Aaron. I'm not convinced yet. And this is me, and maybe it's just part of this process, you know, growth. I have really made a lot of strides, man, in trying to trust people and trying to trust the way things are going and things like that. But I just don't see it yet. I think, there's some statements here that that we've got to look at. Gia went back a couple statements below. She says whistleblowers are being treated as treasonous, while Trump and the Capitol rioters have mostly been protected. I mean, old boy's still getting vegetarian meals, I think, vegan meal. I'm not sure what that is. So maybe it's an entire government issue. Maybe, just maybe, our entire federal system is corrupt and cowardice. Yeah. Io says, I'll never forget what I thought to myself on 116 or 1/6. The real test would be how seriously Americans take this moving forward, and hoping I would be wrong, but I'm not holding my breath. There it is. There it is. That's what I'm saying. I mean, literally, that's what I'm saying. I'm not holding my breath. And it's terrifying that I haven't been proven wrong yet. Gia says, and this is the foundation of our own locals making national news over BS in Carmel schools. It's true. I'm not convinced, Aaron. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced yet. I thought we were getting there. I thought, January 6th, people would be like, this is crazy. Like, literally, this is crazy. And a lot of people have, but not enough, and not the right ones. It seems like, once again, two threads run through history, man. You heard me say this before: morality and money, which money can mean power. And right now, power usually wins out. It wins out.
Yeah.
So with that,
are we there?
I think it's done. I think it's time, brother. I think it's time.
Let's get there.
I gotta get rid of this Stephen A, man. I'm fired up. I'm fired up about it, dude. Wait a minute. Here's Stephen A. Wait, I gotta get my hairline back a little bit more. Like, yeah, there you go. All right.
You need about
what you got for us?
You need about a $7,000 suit on too.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. What you got for us, man? What you got for us?
I don't have anybody in particular. I will say, shit's been kind of crazy for me this year, and it continues as such. We're having a lot of housework done. So shout out to the multitude of contractors who've been coming and going from our house, and getting us back on our feet with functioning toilets and showers and things of that nature. It's very slowly coming together. Our house looks like an absolute war zone. On the upside, I don't have to clean, because why? I think this is shout out for going and finding some good mental space, because this has been a very, very frustrating year. Honestly, it's already twice as frustrating as last year was. And good Lord, last year was weird. And we're about to go back into some COVID stupidity as well. So we'll get to that. So I would say this is another shout out to, and apropos because of what's going on in the Olympics. Look after your mental health, folks. Take care of yourself.
Yes.
If you need to take a break, heed that. You are not weak. You're not a bad person. Everybody needs it. And sometimes, some people go and reconnect with nature. That's never really been my thing. I always found my zen on a soccer field, and I got to be honest, I'm old now, and it's it's a struggle. It's a struggle to find those moments. So I've been having to find some others, and I got to stay on the river last week, and it was very, very peaceful, very nice. Built some fires and hung out, and it was nice just kicking back and reading a little bit. I honestly don't take enough time for myself in that respect. Taking time for myself is usually getting lost in YouTube videos and stuff, and really not shutting down and kind of turning off away from the world. So there's huge benefit to doing that. Your mental health is every bit as important as your physical health, and they're very honestly tied to one another. If you're not feeling right in the head, you're not going to feel good in the body, and vice versa. So look after yourselves, folks. We love you all. You got anything to add, Eb?
Second place, 7.5 out. We're still chugging along, baby.
Yeah,
still chugging along.
And only 5 out of the wild card spot. So
there you go.
Cheers, everybody. Slanty.
Slanty.
All right.
Woo.
Io, if you are out there and listening and you want to jump in here, we can hop on your segment for a little bit, talk a little bit of Olympics and specifically the women's game.
Okay, before Io gets on here, can I say one thing, please, man? Let me say this. Okay. I am a huge supporter of the U.S. women's national team. I will always support them no matter what. And there is not a but to this statement. I'm just saying. There are so many people who are, yes, this current team we have, and Io may talk about this. This current team we have, yes, is aged, and you know what? It showed. Okay. But I'm telling you, we do not rebuild. U.S. women's soccer reloads. That's exactly what's going to happen. And I loved your post, man, whenever you ended your post about this with, they just poked the bear. Yeah. They did just poke the bear, man. I'm telling you, there's not going to have to be a turnaround. We've already changed women's soccer in the world. We've already changed it. And so all you need to look for is U.S. to continue to innovate in women's soccer. That's my thing. I'm tired of seeing folks, like you said, get on the women's soccer team, talk them down and stuff like that. I think it's BS, man. I think it's BS.
Well, I'm going to wait to give my thoughts until Io comes in and I hear from him, because I think there's going to be some good back and forth here. What I will say is our good buddy Nick's criticism is that so many women on the other national teams are playing in Europe, and the game is much more tactical over there. I'm not sure how much I fully agree with that assessment. I get what he's getting at. I don't know that, Manchester City and Chelsea and Arsenal and Manchester United are good teams in Europe. I don't know that they're necessarily, Manchester United playing against DC United in the MLS is probably you're gonna notice a gulf in class. That game's probably gonna finish 5-1 or something like that. I don't believe that gulf in class exists with regard to the player ability. I think maybe there are better coaches for those clubs. I think we still possess better individual players, and I think we maybe relied a little too much on that rather than having a more cohesive team game going on. There were various, injuries and a few, starting and substitution decisions that we'll probably get into here in a second. But I'm with you. I don't think we're gonna. This isn't like losing to Sweden and then, was it Sweden or Germany, and then not seeing a World Cup for like 11 years or something like that. So
yeah, no,
we got Io hopping in here, and
okay. What up,
Mr. Io?
How we doing, Brandon? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh yeah, man.
What's up?
Just chatting about the U.S. women's national team. I gather you have some thoughts.
What are your thoughts?
Be careful, man.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you just heard, what I was talking about with Nick's thoughts on the fact that a lot of the other teams have women playing for European clubs and they're more tactical, yada yada. And I was saying I don't think there's the same gulf. Manchester City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United are the big clubs in England for the women's game. But I don't think, if Man U plays the, Philadelphia Union, you're going to see a gulf in class. I don't think you see that same gulf in class in the women's game. And I would maybe even argue that the WNSL is perhaps a better league at times. I think a bigger issue is our women are playing in both leagues, so they're essentially never taking any time off. And at 30 years old, you can't play 10 months out of the year anymore. Alex Morgan was clearly not at her best, and that is no disrespect to a woman having a child, but she had a kid at 30 years old and tried to come back and perform it at an elite level. And she would probably still show up on a Tuesday night and whip everybody on my team's ass all night long. But It just didn't, she clearly was not at the level she needed to be.
So quick, sorry, the side note of that, you made me think of what a friend of mine said, because someone was talking smack about women's football, and he mentioned Alex Morgan, and he goes, Alex Morgan is closer to a player of Lionel Messi's quality than us normal people are to Alex Morgan. And I was like, yep, you are absolutely 100% correct.
Well, and the only thing I'll add to that is that I think we still possess the best individual players overall. And oh no, you're not supposed to talk.
Oh, what happened?
Oh, I'm attempting to respond to a comment, and by doing so, it started the video. So I don't think we're gonna go rebuild. I think we've got plenty of young players to completely bring in and not just replace, but maybe even improve on some players that we've got. We didn't take Mal Pugh. We didn't take there's a couple young defenders. I'm trying to think of I'm admittedly not as name familiar with the women's game. I recognize them when I see them. We should figure out a way to naturalize Sam Kerr.
Sam Kerr, not Vivian Miedema, who I was raving about last time.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah, Miedema was terrific too. But yeah, I don't think there's the gulf. I think they were probably under a lot more pressure. They were, now that they're they're the woke team and they're constantly having to answer questions about that stuff.
Okay.
But
go ahead.
Well, but also that I don't think anybody can understand. They specifically stuck largely with this group of women in order to accomplish something that had never been done before: win a World Cup and turn around and win an Olympics. And not only is that hard enough on its own, but they were probably ready for it this time last year. And now you add a year to it. It's another year on the legs of your 30-year-olds. That's another year of answering all the questions. Can you do it? Are you really on top? Because everybody always says it's easier to win the damn thing than it is to keep it.
I agree. So, yeah. So you're not wrong. I remember saying the last time we talked, I'm like, how much firepower do you realistically have if you're starting Carly Lloyd? I remember saying that because everyone across that U.S. front line was over the age of 30. And I remember that being a concern at the time. Also, in addition to Vlatko switching the lineups too often, like I feel like they could have done a lot better if he had just decided, this is my front three and we're going with this front three. Like I feel like if it were Williams, Rapinoe, and Morgan, I think they would have been fine. I think if he had a consistent front three, he kept chopping and changing. I think he was tinkering too much, so I don't think that helped at all. I will say one thing that has infuriated me about the coverage of this is this has solely been it's because the U.S. Like the fault is theirs that they didn't win. And like you said, the golfing class is not as wide as it used to be. Like the team they lost to in Canada has one of the best defenses in this entire tournament. Mm-hmm. Like they probably have the best center back pairing in this entire tournament outside of probably one.
And they played Mourinho ball. They played Mourinho ball. They sat deep and absolutely said, you are not getting through us. I will argue, I did not get up to see the game because I stayed up late watching the Gold Cup, and then I had to drive home from my dad's house. So it was just kind of a late night for me. I certainly wasn't getting up at 4 a.m. to watch. I was disappointed to learn of the result. Saw some of the highlights, and by and large, it looked like they were as flat as they had been throughout the tournament. Yeah. And then I saw the quote unquote penalty.
By the letter of the law, that is the correct call.
No, it isn't. It isn't though.
Wait. Let him finish, Aaron. We get the slice and dicing at the end. Remember?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, go slice now because I do. So here's the thing. I understand why it was given. If it wasn't given, I wouldn't have said anything at all. I will tell you this though. I'll tell you what my biggest beef is. The one time Canada goes up front, puts some pressure on the U.S. Why is Rose Lavelle like clearing the ball with basically no one around her? What's the defense?
There's a lot of things wrong with this play. It doesn't exist in a vacuum for sure, but
like a lot.
the play that is reviewed, okay. First off, the call on the field was a no call.
Sure.
Okay, which we have to remember matters now because it is supposed to be clear and obvious evidence to overturn a call. So I will tell you what I saw. I saw a ball bouncing outside the 18, two players moving away from goal, chasing it down. The Canadian player initiates contact from behind and through the back of the U.S. player. And it is only because of that illegal contact that the U.S. player gets off balance, and therefore her attempt to clear the ball comes through the back of the leg of a very, very long-legged Canadian woman. I watched it in real time and thought that's a foul on the Canadian player. Why didn't you call it? Okay, no call. And then the fact that it went to VAR and they overturned it. No, there's never in a million years to me is there enough there to overturn it. Now, this isn't me being sour grapes. By and large, it seems Canada was going to have at least done the work to get themselves to penalties, maybe steal a goal. And I'm sure the Americans weren't going to be thrilled about winning a game that way if they did.
So I pulled it up.
Okay.
So we can see it, okay? And I muted it. So explain this to me, Aya. Here we go.
Okay. So here we are, right? So Rose Lavelle, that's Rose Lavelle right there. So if you go forward again, they're playing in slow-mo.
Okay,
right?
Got you. Okay.
So, hold on. Pause right here. So before this happened, if you want to go back just a little bit, right before she clears it, right? Okay. So first off, mistake number one: why is Rose Lavelle here? Like, there is no reason on God's green earth Rose Lavelle should be there. We can start there, right?
No, I gotta. I'm sorry, I gotta disagree. Every once in a while, you get out of shape, and you have got to be able to trust every player on the field to cover.
Yes,
that's fine. No. I get that.
Are you mad? Are you mad that Steven Gerrard was the last guy back when he slipped? You're not, and you're not gonna blame Liverpool. That was just how things worked out that day.
I get that. I guess in my estimation, considering how that play built up, because Evan, if you want to go back a little more, just a little more before that clearance happens, right?
Okay, right there, or a little more.
Yeah, go back about 10 seconds.
There we go.
All right, so pause. So see these two. So as you see the ball going to Lavelle, right?
Yes.
I'm going to safely assume the two American players further up are your central defenders, right? Because they were still playing a back four.
Oh, right here.
The U.S. never go. No. So you see the woman in the middle. That's Christine Sinclair, I'm assuming, for Canada in the middle.
Oh, right there.
No. In the middle of the pitch. So if we go further up, so so that should be Christine Sinclair. So I'm guessing that defender and that defender are your central defenders, right? Okay.
Isn't Christine Sinclair a very tall blonde woman?
Yes.
Okay, that's not her.
Okay. I'm mistaken. Okay. I was assuming because that's usually the space that she usually occupies.
That's the woman that ends up winning the penalty. Penalty.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So this person, Lavelle, is right here, and I'm going to safely assume she's covering for this fullback to her left, who is usually Crystal Dunn, right?
Okay.
So my problem is Rose Lavelle should have never been there. Now, that being said, that should be the job of Julie Ertz. Julie Ertz is your one that covers that, right? Rose Lavelle, as good as she is, she's not necessarily the one to defend, if we're going to be honest here. So the fact that Lavelle is here by herself is a problem. Now, get that out of the way. Now we can talk about the actual foul itself.
Hold on. If you're going to criticize, I assume you're criticizing the shape of the team and the fact that
shape
Rose
was-
Lavelle is now covering for her center backs. Okay.
Yeah,
Could you not equally argue Crystal Dunn should have won that header?
I can argue that too. That's not a false criticism at all. Like I'm with you on that.
Okay. I want to point out now, I know this is an accident, but this is a perfect example of what it is. You've paused it at a perfect time. The Canadian player has initiated contact. Her elbow is in the lower back of Rose Lavelle, and her thigh is already on top of her other thigh. The Canadian
Lavelle is in stride.
This is
She's
the Canadian
in stride.
player committing a foul right here. Everything that happens from this point forward is irrelevant because here's the first foul.
Look at it. Okay. Now, wait a minute. I want to point this out too, Aaron.
Okay.
Look at this. In the air, once again, it's incident right there. Right there's contact. That's incidental contact. You don't even look at that in the face type thing.
Okay. So here's the thing, right? Is it incidental? Yes. But they've also said it intent really doesn't matter. And a prime example of this was a red card that West Ham Chelsea during the season. I can't remember the West Ham player that got a red card. Basically, not exactly the same scenario, but incidental contact that got an
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Thank you. So initially, I was like, that's kind of harsh. But from what I understand, like intent doesn't matter, it's impact. So that's what I understand.
Is that consistent with the way they were calling it in the Olympics, though? That's what I'm saying.
I don't think you're wrong in that regard. Like there have been some inconsistent calls. Like I said, if it were me, would I have called it? Yes, but I can't poo-poo Aaron's argument either. I can't. Like I don't think he's wrong. Like if Aaron was reffing and he didn't call this, I can't be mad at that. I'm like, all right, I see what's going on. Like for me, as rare Roosevelt is, she should be aware of her surroundings. Maybe that's harsh on my part, and it probably is.
Well,
but
you can't. I would say this in response to the way you're making your argument. You can't acknowledge that it's a failure of the defensive organization that puts Rose Lavelle in this position to have to take care of it anyway, and then doubly criticize Rose Lavelle for not being a good defender.
And look at this. Go
ahead. My bad.
One last thing I want to point out. Like I said, Rose Lavelle's in stride right here. She is getting ready to kick this ball.
Mm-hmm.
Watch. She's getting ready to kick it, and the Canadian player comes into her. She runs into her kicking leg. How is that a foul on Rose Lavelle?
To me, this is a no call because it reminds me very much of ball is running long downfield, right? Mm-hmm. Heading toward the end line, and the attacker and defender are getting a little close to it. The defender just wants it to run out, and the defender waits to the last second and just totally chucks a dude. If you did that in the middle of the field, it's a foul. But because of the circumstances, almost all the time, it's just a goal kick. There was no call on this play. I was fine with that. If you're going to go back and look at this on review, how it's anything but a foul on the Canadian, I just can't see it. I just can't see it.
There's a reason why this is controversial, because I can see why this is given. Like I said, I probably would have given it, but like I said, I can't poo-poo you guys for saying like, no, that's a no call, because this is one of those where it's just like, depending on the ref, it may be given, it may not. So it just really depends on this is one of those judgment calls, basically. That's basically what this is.
My thing too is, and maybe this kind of stuff should not go into the mind, but I actually think it should. Both players are running away from goal. This is not a goal scoring opportunity. The Canadian, if she gets to this ball, is going to have to square up Rose Lavelle and beat two American defenders in order to get a goal, get a shot off. I know. But also, secondly, this is the semifinal of the Olympics, and this is what's going to decide it. If this was how a Champions League semifinal got decided, you'd be pissed. You'd be absolutely pissed.
Hey,
if you were watching Barcelona play Sevilla or some shit like that, and this got called, you'd be pissed about it.
I can't say you'd be pissed, but again, that's why I'm not a ref.
Yeah.
I'm not a ref because I would get payback for 30 years of bad karma.
I also want to shout out Jess Fleming. She plays for Chelsea, who scored the penalty for Canada.
Yeah.
Lose the color.
Hey,
yes.
Look, I am doubly honoring people tonight. Good looking out, Canada. Good looking out that Canadian sprinter in the 200.
All right, there you go.
And also good looking out. We've had more openly gay and transgender athletes at this Olympics than we've ever had before. And as Megan Rapinoe, my spirit animal, said, you can't win without the gays.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, let me go. Can I just go wax lyrical about Vivian Miedema?
Do it.
Go.
Like, I remember mentioning the last time I was on about watching out for Vivian Miedema because I've watched this woman play for the better part of like, what are we in 2021? 2.5 years. And this woman's legit the cheat code.
Wow.
Like I don't think people really understand how good this woman is. I watched this woman live in a game, which it sucks that she plays for Arsenal, but whatever. They won a game 10-1, right? She had 6 goals and 4 assists. Also, while playing mostly on the flank. This is how good this woman is. Like this woman, at this rate, she will break Christine Sinclair's record at the rate which she's going. And she's only, like I said before, she's the top goal scorer for the Dutch, regardless of gender. And she's 25.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's gonna kill it.
25.
Wow.
Poor Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Oh yeah.
All right. I got one last 2-part question for you.
Go ahead.
Who should probably not be involved in the next go round for the women? And who are you most looking forward to seeing brought in that was not at this one?
See, okay, so I'll answer your first question. I'll be honest. I think it's time that entire front line doesn't come back. I think it's time. Maybe except Alex Morgan. But I think Rapinoe, done. Lloyd, done. Heath, done. Press, done. I think all those, done.
The Mal Pugh era is about to begin.
Wow. There you go.
Oh, in addition, Becky Sauerbrunn, I think her time has come too.
I think everybody knew that this was her last. I think they expected it to be Carly's last.
Hey, man.
Alex is kind of on the cusp.
Hey, never say never, man. Formika's still out here playing, and she's been playing in every Olympics since I was a teenager.
No, I know, but that's got more to do with Brazil's inability to replace her than it does anything else. The U.S. have plenty of players waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now, as far as players coming up, if you would indulge me, and let me mention not just American players, because I feel like whenever the women's soccer talk comes, it becomes very American centric.
Oh.
So as far as Americans go, Hamilton, last time I checked, she was playing for the North Carolina Courage. She's a striker. She's a little older, mid-20s, if I'm not mistaken. She could be the next one coming in. Now, whether or not she'll be able to, because she's following in big footsteps as she does. I mean, if we're going to be honest, anyone following any women's national team that's American is following big footsteps regardless. So we just got to take it as it is. Her. As far as like international, I've already mentioned Miedema already. Yep, there she is. She's very good. I've already mentioned Miedema already. There's a midfielder who actually plays for Manchester United, who's Dutch. Her name is Jackie Groenen.
Yep.
I'm big on her as well. There are some players that were actually really good who weren't at this tournament. Hansen, Norwegian player for Barcelona. That is not Jackie Groenen. Jackie Groenen is a G. No, that is not Jackie Groenen.
That's the
God.
best thing ever right there. Oh my gosh.
No,
There she is.
it's grown me
Right
with this
there.
kid.
Jackie can ball, man. She
She
can
can
ball.
ball.
Oh Lord, not that. Oh God, no, God, no, not that Jackie. No. But,
Okay. Okay.
she's in the mid-20s. She's really good. She's everything you could want from a midfielder. She's combative. She could pass. She's good in tight spaces. She's really good. As far as the English go, there's a goalkeeper by the name of Ellie Roebuck. She literally just turned 21. She plays for Manchester City. She is probably the best shot stopper on the planet. No cap. Like she probably is. If she's not, she's in the top 5. She's that good. Ellie Roebuck. Let me see if I could think of a couple more players. Yes, I mentioned Ellie Roebuck. I mentioned Jackie Groenen. There's another British player, Rinsola Babajide. She just signed from Liverpool. She just went from Liverpool to Brighton because unfortunately the Liverpool women got relegated last year. She's a speedy player who you should be seeing in the future. And there's one player, if she leaves Chelsea, could be a top 5 striker. Her name is Bethany England. She is, if not for Vivian Miedema and if not for Sam Kerr and Pernilla Harder coming to Chelsea, I firmly believe Beth England would have been the best player on this planet. Go look at Beth England goes. Like, she is a striker. Like, she's like Miedema. They made her in the lab. First, if you like your strikers who like hustle everywhere, you will love Beth England. Like, there's no chill with this woman. That's one. She's very physical. Also, she scores goals from everywhere. This woman does not need service. Left foot, right foot, headers. She scrappy ones. She will score that. Like
she's the Netflix of women's soccer. I don't need no studio. I'll make my own movie.
She's the Erling Haaland of women's soccer.
There you go.
No, but here's the thing. Here's the thing about Beth England. If you give her a look outside the box, she is taking it, and she can shoot from outside the box. Like the very first game I saw her play, she scored from like 25 yards with her left. And then later that season against Manchester City, she scored from outside the box with her right. Like, this woman is. I think she probably have to leave Chelsea if she wants any game time, because Chelsea got Pernilla Harder and Sam Kerr and Frank Kirby, who's on fire right now. So if she wants any good playing time, she has to leave. Which reminds me, Lauren James just signed for Chelsea from Manchester United. She's someone I'm big on if she can get consistent playing time. Who is also the sister of a certain Reece James.
She's really solid too.
Oh wow, I did not know that. Excellent.
She just moved back to Chelsea. I don't know if she'll get a lot of playing time because unfortunately United is a bit of a shit show right now. The women, that is. I mean,
the
it's
coach,
United, but whatever. Sorry.
The coach changing has been a real problem for them. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. You lay off the men. Our transfer window has been just fine. Thank you very much.
I was going to suggest, Aaron, why don't you get back into coaching, man? Throw your hat in the ring. This Man U women. I mean,
Oh, you want me to take over the Man U women's team?
Pull a Ted Lasso.
How about we have
Ted Lasso, baby?
How about we do the right thing and have a women's coach be the coach of a women's soccer team?
Oh, okay. See,
there's way too many men trying to make their name in the NWSL and then fucking off for other teams real quick after they've played coached half a season, and that's not good for the sport. Yep. That's not good for anybody. So I don't like to see it. I want to promote the plenty of fantastic, solid tacticians out there that happen to be female. We doesn't have to be so male centric, and there's something to be said about a woman's coach understanding the women's game.
Also, before you let me go, if you want to watch any of the women, the NWSL is all on CBS.
Yep.
If you have Paramount Plus, it's on there.
Okay.
And if you want to watch the Barclays WSL, because I know most of us here are either Chelsea, Man United, or Arsenal supporters, NBC has some games on. NBC Sports has some games on. You just have to find them. Also, if you download, it's called the FA Player.
Yep.
You can watch games for free. Now they don't have every game available, but
What?
most. Yeah, you can watch
Okay.
it. It's 100% free. So do
Okay.
yourself a favor.
Do you know
and
if they're
just,
on Fubo?
Not that I'm aware of. No. So
Okay,
I
because
just have.
Fubo's big on having whole leagues and stuff like that. I just didn't know if they had that yet. So
Oh wow.
right
Okay.
on, man.
Not I'm aware, but hey, I appreciate y'all for your patience with me, and thank you for having me.
Nah, glad to
Longest
have
5 minutes of infamy of all time, man. That was great.
Io is the resident women's soccer SME and
Yes.
good friend of the pod. Glad to see you. We will most likely talk again next week at some point, but if we don't see you in person until then, my birthday is coming up. It's opening day of the season.
Woo.
I don't know if I'll be making the 7:30 a.m. Man U versus Leeds match. Might watch that
Oh,
one at
I
home.
can't make it that early too. My kids have taekwondo at 10, so I'm going to be at Chat for lunch after.
Does Chelsea play that day? Because Arsenal plays the day before.
Chelsea plays
at
noon?
10.
Oh, 10. Okay.
All righty. Then we will probably see you up there. Io, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
See you, sir.
Yeah.
My friend. Wow. That was really good. That was a great discussion.
It was, and you know what? It was a perfect opportunity because first off, women's athletics really took to the forefront. I think starting last year during COVID, got the bubble right. Because of that, and because of women's soccer, as much as criticism as they're taking right now, they're a large part of why that was, that happened. The viewership of NWSL is up. Women's sports in general, it's finally being taken seriously on its own merit, not just compared to the men's game. Oh, basketball, blah, 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 blah. No, right. It stands on its own. It probably always has, but it's finally being recognized, and that's a good thing. And I love that we've got somebody who is as passionate about it as we are the various sports that we follow. So huge shout out. Thanks to Io, resident women's sports SME. I want to hit on one or two things. I know we're running long. But
I'm gonna let you call it, man. I mean, if you want to, we can save it to next week.
I kind of want to address. We touched on it earlier. I kind of want to address Cuomo a little bit more. It seems pretty obvious. He's had a pattern of behavior that at a minimum has creeped people out. And his slideshow attempting to defend himself really kind of dug the hole deeper.
That's just who I am. That's just who I am.
Well, and that was kind of, Joe Biden's response to a lot of things. And I think we're in the midst of a reckoning right now. And I will simultaneously say people who transgress need to be held responsible for their actions. But also that there's an awful lot of learned and excused behaviors in our culture. And I don't know what the right level is. I don't think what Andrew Cuomo is doing in pictures or Joe Biden is doing in pictures is the same thing as, rape and other types of assault, but I don't know if we need to be parsing it that much. These are inappropriate behaviors and they need to be called out. And at a minimum, Cuomo should apologize for just not knowing better. If that's his excuse. A lot of people would yell cancel culture and things of that nature. I think it's holding people accountable for their actions. Now, what that accountability means after being, elected to office, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say I've got the answer. But as we touched on earlier, I think this is something that, for whatever reason, our type of people are willing to analyze and talk about and discuss what's right or wrong, rather than dismissing it out of hand. because Matt Gaetz gets you another vote in the Senate. This type of thing deserves its own segment and a lot of thought, and probably at least one or two more female perspectives to balance this out, because two guys discussing what's appropriate behavior toward women is just a continuation of shit that has gone on for a very, very long time.
Let's try and remedy that next week, man.
I'm good with that.
I'd love to get that perspective.
I'd be happy. I know Gia is a regular. Yep. Jen has weighed in. Candle, if you're out there, if the SOs want to come on, you know, I know every woman's story is different, but there's an awful lot of overlap, and there's a lot to be learned. And in this situation, I think, for as much as I love to talk and share my opinion, I know it's not the most valid in the room. So I think that's the kind of outreach we need to do, and hopefully we can get some hits on that. I think at this point we've covered everything I mentioned in the write-up, except for crazy moves in Major League Baseball, and all I'll say is Joey Votto bangs.
Joey Votto, man.
Evan, you got anything else?
I mean, of course I've got, you know, like we're running over. So I feel a natural tendency to say, okay, let's keep this Hey Aaron segment for next week. However, I'm going to give a teaser. I'll give you a teaser. We're going to be taking a look at fast food. We're going to be looking at fast food, and you're going to be put into several dilemmas where you have to choose, my friend. So those of you who are watching, please come back. This is going to be an interactive Hey Aaron segment. I definitely would love for you guys to play along, but it should be a good one. It should be a good one, my friend. It is like Armageddon happening to fast food, my friend. It's a sad but
I dig it. And on the fast food note, I want to point out that I learned tonight that one of the best rap lyrics of all time has now been rendered irrelevant, because I stopped at White Castle. Don't ask why a sober person would stop at White Castle, but I did.
Hey,
and White Castle fries no longer come in one size.
I saw what you took. That's disappointing.
And honestly, no one needs that many White Castle fries. They're just not why you go to White Castle. They're kind of an afterthought. They're like, do you remember Magic fries from the 80s? The original like microwavable fries. You had to like overcook them if you wanted a crunchy one. They were all just mushy potato. Honestly, White Castle fries, you might get 2 or 3 good crunchy at the end, but for the most part, they are not why you go to White Castle.
That's all it is.
So that was disappointing.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry for that experience, brother. But hey, you know what? You get to take us out today, and hopefully it's going to be a more positive thought than White Castle fries. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. Like I said, well, you know what? One thing I forgot to plug tonight, man. It's August, which means training camp, baby. Training camp is starting.
I saw a kid left high school early.
Yeah.
To go to Ohio State.
5-star quarterback, dude. 5-star quarterback. And I'm not sure I agree with that.
Nothing sounds fishy or wrong about that.
I don't agree with it. I'm with you. And that could be another thing we talk about next week.
Unless he's like an academic All-American and could graduate early.
You're right.
No, seriously. If he was advanced in that kind of thing, that'd be cool. I wouldn't begrudge that. But it sounds more like a fast track to the NFL. Fast track
Ladies
to a
and gentlemen,
Heisman.
I now present Aaron's final words. Aaron, what you got for us to end up tonight, man? What's up?
You know what? I think I got just a little bit more on the the positivity. Life is shitty at times, and we all need a little help. Sometimes that's a friend, sometimes that's a walk in the forest. Sometimes that's, looking out to honor some people in your life or look up to them, making connections. So look after yourselves, do the things that make you happy. Anybody who's followed the show know that we lost a great one in my mom earlier this year. And in tribute, got some fantastic ink done at Metamorphosis in Broad Ripple. My mom was a huge Tinkerbell fan.
Nice.
My parents' home is essentially a shrine to Disney. But she loved her Tinkerbell, and she was a little Tinkerbell herself. So shout out to Jeff at Metamorphosis and the great work they do. But honestly, that was a bit of a catharsis for me. This is a way to not that I'll ever forget, but to have a physical reminder, and a little bit of a tribute and honor to somebody who I'll never be able to say enough about. It's an opportunity to catch a glimpse of it sometimes and have some thoughts. So, and those are good things. I that kind of honoring, I think that helps us all through the process, the grieving and the figuring out how to move on without people. And that's part of life, but it's a good thing when you can go about it the right way. And, so everybody look after yourselves, take time out for yourself. If there's somebody you haven't reached out to in a while, reach out to them. It makes you feel good. It makes them feel good. Just makes that mesh matrix of humanity in the world that little bit stronger. It's like a Bitcoin transaction for life.
That's awesome.
Every certified connection makes us all a little bit stronger. And that's what we all need right now, is to feel like we're all in this together. Even though there's a few or holdouts, we'll get them. Love your brothers, love your sisters, hug everybody tight. Can't say enough. Thank you all for tuning in yet again. It was a blast. This, like I said, we were gonna get into it, and we got into it. Shout out to Io for jumping in. And ladies out there, hit us up if you'd like to have some screen time next week, or just want to send in your thoughts and we'll read them. That's fine if you don't want to be on air, but definitely want to get your opinion, your thoughts of
I'm calling Gia out. I'm like, Gia, come on. We need to hear your voice. Let's go.
I think so.
Which, by the way, last thing I was going to say, happy birthday month, Gia. There you go.
Happy birthday. Oh, are you in August, baby? Are you a Leo? Are we all Leos?
Leo.
Wow.
Nope.
Well, shout out to us Leos, who are largely just taking over the world anytime we go about our business. Shout out, Gia. Happy birthday. And to everybody else, love you all. Thanks for tuning in. And we will probably see you next week.
Black people vote.
Black people vote.